Okay, so UFC Fight Night Spann versus Krylov, if I can even call it that, has just finished taking place, and I'm going to go through the main card now. Check out the prelim reaction. It was pretty decent with some funny moments. I did start at 3 and 2, so I really need a pretty good record on the mains to maintain my record this year. The fight night started with a major cancellation, and we found out that Krylov had to pull out due to illness. This was the third fight cancellation of the card, and to be honest, fuck it. This is what happens when you stack cards like dog shit. So Allen and Muniz would be moved to the main event, which isn't a bad scrap anyway. Please remember to like and subscribe, and yeah, let's get into this. Okay, so the first fight on the main card was the Alabama Redneck and Scrapper Peak taking on Eric Gonzalez, the soft belly shit dragon tattoo man. I picked Peak in this one. It was risky, given the experience and reach disparity on Gonzalez's side. Kerry Hatley, the infamous drunk ref, was in the middle for this one, and he would actually prove to be the star of the show. This was a hell of a fun scrap. Pete came into this one blazing and looked sharp and strong and measured in this one to start with. But this one quickly descended into what I can only describe as a car park brawl. Pete was swinging massive heat early. Gonzalez smartly got in close and got a massive takedown, but Pete managed to make his way back up, and this literally happened 6 or 7 times in the first half of the round. Now, Peak finally managed to keep it on the feet and started swinging wildly, and I figured he was in massive danger of puffing himself out with no setup for his attacks. Gonzalez clearly had the advantage in wrestling, so what Peak decided to do to negate this was just to empty the gas tank. And usually this isn't a smart choice, but this proved to be the right move in this one. Towards the end of the round, he dropped Gonzalez twice, started throwing these really weird standing hammer fists, like throwing them from top, throwing them to the side. He caught Gonzalez again and dropped him. It was just pure aggression and thunder in this one. Now, the ref is really retarded. He clearly failed to stop the fight when Gonzalez was out cold, and this resulted in the poor guy taking a whole bunch of unnecessary extra shots. The fight was eventually called off with 2 seconds left. Now, I'm not sure if I'd pick Peak moving forward unless he can learn to manage his gas tank. If he's fighting anyone good in the division, he's going to get dominated on the ground, and I don't think this man's going to play well in deep waters. He was clearly buzzing to get the win and was just giddy to be there, so that was always nice to see. And this took me up to 4 and 2, so I'm delighted with the start. Right, next fight. I didn't really feel good about this one going in, but I really should have. This was a total wash. I said I was picking against Mainess because he's terrible, and well, now Mallott clearly was more aggressive early and he stayed pretty patient. Mainess did a really good William Knight impression. He did fuck all to start things out. Then Mallott got up close, dragged Mainess down. He landed really easy side control. He was lightly tapping Mainess on the face, but Mallott kept him down there really easily. Then, with no effort whatsoever, locked in an arm triangle choke, and Mainess instantly tapped. It was way easier than I was expecting, and a really nice win for Mallott. An easy win. Mainess needs to be cut. Now, Mallott started crying at the end about how proud he is to be Canadian, and this was a kind of a soy move, and it slightly spoiled the win for me. But yeah, nice win. Moved me to 5-2, and now we move on to the sacrificial female fight on the main card. Okay, so this fight was elevated to the feature fight. I called this a layup for Tatiana Suarez. Just before this fight took place, there was a promo for Shevchenko and Grasso for the main event of 285, which takes place next week. And this made me feel a little unwell. It really took the jam out of my donut, I'm not gonna lie. Never mind. Anyway, Jones is back, and I'm not going to let them spoil this shit. Now, there was such a long wait for this fight, and this kind of boiled my piss a little bit. It kind of annoyed me. Anyway, Suarez went in for the early takedown. De La Rosa did well to fight it off. I actually mixed the two women up. I wasn't sure who was who. Fuck's sake. Anyway, Suarez was working immediately from a takedown and full guard. De La Rosa tried to defend and use hips to create space. Didn't have much success with that. Suarez was just moving around and locking in a tight body lock. It wasn't very exciting to watch. De La Rosa attempted a whizzer to gain defensive control, but Suarez managed to take the back and regain control. Now, I'm not one of those guys that insists that a fight should be a standing scrap to be a great fight. I love when high-level wrestlers go at it and show excellent chaining and skill on the mat. Sarukian and Gamrot was a really great example of this, a fight that happened not that long ago. If you're into wrestling, check that out. This was not that kind of fight. Now, Suarez won the first round, but she did fuck all really, whatever. Now, the second round was a little bit more active, and I give credit to De La Rosa for at least trying to make it competitive. It didn't take long, however, for Suarez to hip toss her down, escape danger in north-south position, and then she started actually working chained positions, which was quite nice. De La Rosa did manage to get it standing for a moment in the second, but Suarez pulled a guillotine, which in a man's fight would be a death note. A horrible mistake. But this is women's MMA, so of course she locked it in and De La Rosa tapped. This fight was exactly what I expected. I said it would be crappy, and I get no prizes for being correct. Suarez did go up a weight class. She recently lost her mother to cancer, and she battled through it herself. So fair play to her. I'm not a total monster. That was obviously, it's a nice redemption story. She could be a problematic contender. She's strong, she's dominant, and I think at that weight class, she's going to be a problem. So yeah, Suarez won by submission, and I moved up to 6-2. So I'm guaranteed yet another winning finish on a card. This was so crummy, it actually made me excited about the Tubby Penguins now occupying the co-main event. Woo! Let's go, champ! As I said, this fight was bumped to the co-main and was contested between Augusto, the human lava lamp Sakai, and Dontel, the way below average Maze. I did pick Maze, but ended up flip-flopping and took Sakai on the Discord. I'll be sharing the link for that in the description below. I didn't really care either way. I just wanted a nice little scrap and hopefully a quick fight. I got neither. The fight started with a huge low kick by the lava lamp and another that clearly hurt Maze. He went for the lockup, which Maze reversed, but Maze did a really nice teep to the stomach on the lava lamp. I was surprised at this point that Maze went for a takedown, as he's usually a stand-up guy, but he used it as leverage to push the lava lamp against the fence. But this really worked against him. Sakai hit really big knees to the face and just kept spamming them throughout the round. Sakai had the bigger moments throughout that round. He used a lot of clinch knees. Maze did really well to survive, but he took really big damage, and Maze did really well to survive the knees, but he had taken some really big damage in that round and was constantly pressured throughout. It was a clear Sakai first round. He looked really good in this one. So glad I changed my pick. Then Maze started the second with a few nice shots, but then grabbed a glove. He must have learned that from John Jones. Sakai then pushed him up against the fence, and I suddenly wanted to go back to watching Suarez versus De La Rosa. Maze reversed, did a little work against the fence. Then Maze started grabbing the cage, which is always annoying to see. Regardless of that, 2-0 Sakai. I expected him at this point to coast to a UD or a late finish at this point, which he absolutely did. The third was more of the same. Maze looked capable when he was out in the center, but Sakai just smartly pushed him to the side of the cage, clinched up and just hit knees. Maze did land a few stomach teeps, which made the round a little different, but then stupidly went back to the clinch game. He's clearly got no fight IQ, and he was so exhausted he just flopped down to the floor, and that was all she wrote. I really hope the UFC has run out of heavyweight bottom feeders and this trend is now over. I really can't take any more of this human jiggling. Anyway, Sakai got this by decision and I went to 7-2. I did tell everyone to avoid it. Now, if Jones has been using this sack of shit Maze to train with, then I might have to reconsider my pick next week. Anyway, let's get on to the main event and get the fuck out of here. Now, as I said, this was elevated to the main event, and this was actually a nice little fight. The men started out exchanging leg kicks. Allen looking better on the feet at first. Now, Muniz did have the best moment in the first half with a really nice roundhouse kick to the body. Muniz then started opening the hands a little. This kind of surprised me. I was expecting Allen to be better on the feet and Muniz to be better on the ground, which I'm going to get to. Now, 3 minutes had got into the fight, and I was really surprised there was no takedown at this point. Muniz made no attempt to shoot, and this surprised me. He was kind of peppering strikes and finally went for a takedown, which Allen managed to stuff. Now, towards the end of the round, it looked like Muniz had clearly done a little damage to Allen's eye. Now, Allen did scrap back pretty well, and it was a very close round. Muniz did hit a few nice stomach shots, an accidental eye poke, which halted proceedings for a small amount. Very close round. I gave it 1-0 to Muniz for having slightly more visible damage, but if people had called it for Allen, I wouldn't have had anything to say about it. Pretty close rounds. Round 2 started, and Muniz was looking much better on the feet in round 2. He was tagging Allen. Muniz was winning the fight at this point, and normally I would think this would have been a stupid move, but Muniz then went for a takedown and got reversed on the ground in the scramble. And again, this surprised me. But what was even more surprising is that Allen stayed on top for the entire round, looking really safe, landing good shots, and Muniz was surprisingly easy to control on the bottom. This made it a much clearer round, so you could technically have had Allen 2-0 up. You could probably say 1-1, but it was either 1-1 or Allen 2-0 up. So in my mind, Muniz needed a finish, and I was feeling really nervous at this point. I'd picked him and had him to close out a parlay, was very nervous. So third round starts, really nice shot by Muniz. Muniz letting the hands go, and he had clearly decided he was going to keep it on the feet. He'd had a little taste on the ground and thought, fuck that, I'm not rolling with that, I'm just going to keep it on the feet. And he must have been really confident that he'd won the first. So Muniz was keeping things standing, he was landing the better strikes. Allen was starting to wear more damage, and the fight was starting to swing in Muniz's favor. So Muniz clearly won the first half of the round. Now, at the midpoint of the third round, Muniz went for a leg kick, and Allen grabbed his leg and took him to the ground. And this was essentially the sequence that ended up winning him the fight here. Muniz was defending on the ground, but then you could clearly see he was losing the round. And Allen just really did well to chain positions, get to a favorable place. He was kind of looking for a choke for a while, and eventually he locked it in. Muniz tapped. The fight went the exact opposite way of what I was expecting. Muniz was better on the feet, and Allen was better on the ground. And what a win this was for Allen. Muniz is basically done in this division. He was number 11. He's 33 years old. I can't see him climbing up the division now. I think he's basically going to be stuck in limbo, fighting off contenders coming from below him. I think he's done. So yeah, great win for Allen. He's young, looks dangerous, he's improving. A little bit disappointed to have lost the parlay and lost the fight, bringing me to 7-3. But it's really nice to have a new young contender at middleweight. Really nice win for Allen. Can't complain. Right, that brings an end to the card. I'm really gutted that we didn't get to see Spann fight now that he started training and everything. Like, honestly, I didn't think this card was that bad. Despite the shit show with all the cancellations, it was really poorly stacked. But mercifully, due to the cancellations, this card finished pretty quickly. It was brisk. Apart from the break before the Tatiana Suarez fight, moved along pretty quickly. So I'm really grateful for the early night, to be honest. Now, I finished with an overall record for the year so far of 45-21, which is really good. Due to finishing 7-3 on the card, I managed to retain my 68% win ratio, which really pleased with. I was genuinely concerned about this card. I thought I was going to end up with a losing record in this one. So 7-3 I'm delighted with. Tune in for the predictions to UFC 285, where we will have the return of John Jones. We'll find out if Shavkat Rakhmonov is the truth, and we'll also find out if Bo Nickel can shake things up at middleweight. Catch you soon, everyone.